In the city of Ibadan, among the noise of taxis, the scent of akara, and the prayers of mothers, lived a young woman named Adesewa. She was 25 years old, beautiful like sunrise after harmattan, gentle like water in a clay pot, smart, successful, and well loved. But Adesewa carried a secret, a deep one, a secret so hidden that not even her own mother knew. She had never menstruated, not at 13, not at 15, not even now at 25. From the day she realized something was wrong, Adesewa began to live two lives. In public, she was graceful, social, and confident. In private, she was terrified. She bought pads every month and threw them away. She faked stomach pain when her friends complained about cramps. She always left conversations when the topic turned to that time of the month. And when her mother asked casually, "Hope you're okay, that time don't come," Adezewa would smile and say, "Yes, ma, it came and went." Lie upon lie, month after month, year after year. But lately, the lie had started to weigh heavier. It wasn't just about hiding anymore. Now there was fear, fear of marriage, fear of love, fear of being touched, fear of the question she could never answer. Can you give me children? That morning, on the day of her 25th birthday, Adesewa sat in front of her mirror. Her face was glowing, her makeup soft, her phone was buzzing with messages. "Happy birthday, fine girl. Big 25, now wedding remain now. When is your own baby shower, sis?" She replied with the emojis and fake laughter, but deep inside, she wanted to cry. She touched her flat stomach gently and whispered, "Even if I marry, what happens when he finds out the truth?" She stood up, opened her wardrobe, and stared at the stack of unopened pads, neatly arranged like trophies of a lie she had perfected. She closed the door, locked the truth back inside, picked up her bag, and walked out of the house to start her day, looking flawless, smiling brightly, just like she always did, because nobody else ever know. It was a Saturday afternoon when Toby first saw her. Adesewa had gone to her friend's bridal shower, dressed in soft yellow lace, her smile calm, her voice low. She barely noticed the man sitting by the gate, helping the caterers unload crates of water. He noticed her, though. "She walks like someone who knows silence," he said quietly to his cousin. Later that evening, he greeted her politely. "Good evening. You helped my cousin with the wedding setup. I'm Toby." She smiled gently. "Adesewa." She didn't say more. She never did with strangers. The next morning, he sent a message. "Good morning. I hope you got home safely. Would love to see you again, even if it's just for a walk." She read it, ignored it, then replied 4 hours later, "I'm usually busy, but thank you." But Toby didn't disappear like others did. He was not pushy. He was not loud. He simply showed up in messages, in helpful favors, in short prayers, in steady check ins. Something about his calmness made her anxious because she could already sense it. If she let him in, he would find the door she had been hiding all her life, and that Adesewa wasn't ready for anyone to knock yet. The day started like any other. Adesewa sat in the living room, scrolling through her phone, while her mother sliced okra in the kitchen. "Sewa," her mother called. "You know Tolu, my friend's daughter? She just gave birth last week. Her second child." "Oh," Adesewa smiled. "That's good, ma. Hmm, you children of nowadays, always smiling. But when will your own come? You're 25 now, and you've not even brought one man to greet me. Are they blind in your office?" Adesewa laughed, trying to keep her voice steady. "Mommy, I'm not in a hurry." Her mother wiped her hands and came to sit beside her. "You're not a child again, Sewa. Look at you, beautiful, blessed, everything a man wants. Don't delay too long. You know how our body is." Adesewa looked away. Her fingers gripped her phone tightly. If only her mother knew. If only she could scream, I've never menstruated, not once, not a single drop. But she couldn't. So she smiled again, the smile she had mastered. I'll pray about it, Ma, she whispered. That night she cried quietly in bed. She touched her belly and asked the same question for the 100th time. What's wrong with me? But the silence, as always, gave no answer. It started with short messages, simple things like, Hope your day is going well. Don't forget to eat, please. I saw this book and thought of you. Adesewa tried to reply with distance, but Toby's calm nature was like soft rain. It didn't flood, but it soaked you slowly. One evening, he sent a voice note. I know you're always careful with people. I don't blame you, but I like the way your silence speaks, and I'd like to listen if you ever want to talk. Adesewa listened to it 3 times. Her heart beat faster each time. The next Saturday, he invited her for a simple outing, not a date, just fresh air and small chops. She agreed. They sat under a mango tree in an open garden, sipping zobo and watching children run barefoot in the grass. Toby didn't ask too many questions. He just let the breeze speak. After a long silence, he turned to her. You seem like someone who carries a lot. Quietly. Her throat tightened. She forced a smile. I'm fine. I just like my peace. He nodded. Peace is rare, but sometimes it hides the battles too. As the sun began to set, he walked her to her gate. They didn't hug, they didn't touch, but the space between them felt full of something unspoken. As she walked into her house, Adesewa paused and turned around. Toby was still standing there, watching, waiting, respectful, and somehow that scared her more than anything. That night she lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. For years she had longed for love, for connection, for someone to look at her and not see what was missing. Now that love was knocking gently, she didn't know how to open the door, because behind that door was a truth no man had ever seen. A woman with no blood, a womb that had never flowed, a body she didn't fully understand. The next few weeks passed like wind. Toby showed up, slowly, steadily, kindly. He brought her small gifts, books, fruits, handwritten notes. He made her laugh in quiet ways. He asked about her dreams, not her body, about her thoughts, not her waistline. He never rushed, never pushed, and that made her fall faster. One afternoon, as they sat together on a bench outside her office, he looked at her and said, I know you don't talk much. I know there are things you don't say, but I'm not in your life to pull your truth out. I'm here to walk with you until you're ready. She stared at him. Tears filled her eyes. She quickly looked away, wiped them. Thank you, she whispered, but in her heart something cracked, because she knew if this man ever found out the truth, would he still stay? That night, Adesewa opened the drawer beside her bed. Inside were over 30 unopened packs of sanitary pads, arranged like soldiers in a silent army. She picked one, held it in her hand. Then she sat on the floor, and for the first time in years, she wept like a child. Not because she was weak, but because she was tired of being strong alone. The night was quiet. Even the wind outside her window had no voice. Adesewa lay in bed, her eyes open, her body tired, but sleep refused to come. Her heart had grown heavier these past weeks. The closer Toby came, the louder her secret screamed. That night, she finally drifted off, deep into a dream. She found herself standing in a shallow river. The water was still, clear, but unmoving. She looked down at her feet, no ripples, no waves. Then, from behind her, a voice whispered, The river knows what you hide. She turned. No one was there. Suddenly, the sky turned red. The still water turned to blood, thick, dark, and rising fast. It covered her legs, her waist, her chest. Children stood on the bank crying, and from behind them, a woman in white, a veil covering her face, pointed at Adesewa and said, The vow must be broken before it swallows you. Adesewa screamed. She woke up in sweat, but something was wrong. Her nose was bleeding. Thick drops of blood fell onto a white pillow. Her first blood, but not the one she had prayed for. She sat up quickly, ran to the mirror, and stared at her face. Her heart beat like thunder in a calabash. Why that dream? Who was the woman? What vow? The next day, she couldn't concentrate at work. Her hands trembled as she typed. Her lips were dry. Even Toby noticed. You look pale, didn't sleep well. She forced a laugh. I'm fine, just tired. But she wasn't fine, because that night the dream returned. This time she was in a room full of mirrors. In each mirror she saw herself, but not as she was. Some were swollen, some were crying. One was pregnant, but bleeding. And again, the woman in white returned and said, You cannot carry what you did not receive. Adesewa fell to her knees in the dream, weeping. When she woke up, the pillow was wet again. Not with blood, but with tears. She hadn't even realized her fallen in her sleep. She went to her drawer, opened the bottom compartment, pulled out an old envelope with test results from years ago, one of the many hospitals she had gone to in secret. The last line on the report stared back at her. No evidence of menstruation, further spiritual evaluation advised. She had ignored that line, but now maybe it was time to stop pretending that her problem was just medical. Adosotism, maybe something deeper had sealed her womb long before she became a woman. That night, Adesewa sat on her balcony. She looked up at the sky and whispered, What exactly did they do before I was born? For days after the dreams and the nosebleeds, Adesewa said nothing. Not to her mother, not to Toby, not even to herself. But her silence no longer gave her peace. It now felt like a rope around her neck. Toby noticed the change in her eyes. He called, he texted, he offered prayer, laughter, even quiet company. She still replied. She still smiled. But something had shifted in her. The fear had grown larger than her heart. One evening, he asked, You're holding something. I don't want to force it, but I want you to know you're safe with me. They were seated at a rooftop lounge. The sky was purple, the wind soft. She could feel his sincerity. Her heart began to beat fast. She opened her mouth to speak, but then the questions came. What if he runs? What if he looks at me differently? What if I lose him? Just like that. So instead, she said, I'm just stressed. Work's been a lot lately. Toby didn't push. He just nodded and held her hand, and somehow that made her feel even worse. That night, she stood in the shower for almost an hour, letting water run down a body that still felt incomplete. She looked at her stomach and whispered, What are you hiding inside there? Then she bent low and cried again. She was tired, tired of lying, tired of wondering, tired of looking normal on the outside and feeling broken on the inside. At midnight, her phone buzzed. Toby. Sleep well, Sewa. I'm praying for you tonight. She read it and nearly dropped the phone. If only he knew the kind of prayers I need. In the darkness of her room, she reached for her old hospital envelope again. She opened it. The report, the scans, all staring back at her like ghosts. This time she didn't put them away. She placed them on her bed. And she stared, because a part of her was beginning to realize something. This thing inside her, this condition, might not be hers alone. It might have started with someone else. The sun rose gently over the city of Ibadan, but for Adesewa, it felt like a shadow followed her everywhere. Her dreams had grown worse. Each night, the woman in white returned, pointing, weeping, warning, and each morning, Adesewa woke up more tired than the night before. She was losing weight, losing sleep, losing herself, but still she smiled, still went to work, still texted Toby until her body could no longer pretend. That afternoon, she was leading a presentation at work. She wore her usual confidence, white blouse, gold studs, soft perfume, but halfway through her slides, her voice began to tremble. Her eyes blurred, her legs felt weak. She reached for a chair, and then, darkness, she collapsed. Gasps filled the room. Her colleagues rushed forward. Water was sprinkled, her shoes removed. Someone screamed her name. Adezewa, wake up! But her body remained still, eyes closed, lips pale, pulse faint. She was rushed to the hospital. The doctors ran tests, blood, hormones, scan after scan. Her mother was called. Madam, please come quickly. It's serious. Mama Funmilayo arrived panting, holding a wrapper tied across her chest. When she saw her daughter on the hospital bed, she dropped to her knees. Yesumi, Adesewa, talk to me. But Adesewa's eyes remained shut. An hour later, the doctor came in. Ma, we need to ask something. He spoke gently, but each word hit like thunder. Did you know your daughter has never menstruated? The room went silent. Her mother blinked. And what are you saying, doctor? She's 25 years old. Yes, ma, but there is no record of menstrual history, no hormonal rhythm, no cycle. Her womb has never bled. Mama von Milayo staggered. My world. I surrender it to God. She sat down, confused, trembling. But she never said anything. She never even showed signs. She hid it well, the doctor said. For how long? Maybe all her life. Meanwhile, Toby arrived outside the hospital ward. One of Adesewa's co-workers had called him. He saw her mother crying. He saw the doctors whispering, and he felt it in his spirit. Something is not normal here. Inside the hospital bed, Adesewa finally stirred. Her eyes fluttered open. She saw the white ceiling. She smelled antiseptic. She turned and saw her mother, Toby, the doctor, everyone silent. She knew instantly. They know. Her chest tightened, her hands shook, and slowly the tears returned, hot and endless. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know how to say it. The room remained quiet. Her secret, like smoke, had finally escaped, and nothing would ever be the same again. For 2 days, the hospital remained quiet around Adesewa. She spoke little, ate less, stared often. Her mother sat by her side, lost in thought. Toby came, sat quietly, prayed quietly, left quietly. The truth had come out, but the root of it remained hidden. Until Mama Funmilayo started remembering things. That evening, while Adesewa slept, her mother paced outside the ward, arms folded, lips pressed. She whispered to herself, but I had a clean pregnancy, no signs, no sickness, except she paused. Suddenly, something clicked in her memory, a faint event buried in dust. She remembered it now. She had been 3 months pregnant when it happened. She had gone to her grandmother's village, far inside Ogbomosho. That day, the rain had refused to stop. Thunder shook the trees. The sky turned orange. An old priestess had summoned her. You must not allow this child to bleed, the woman had warned. If the blood flows, her destiny will be drained. Mama Funmilayo had laughed nervously. Is it not normal for girls to see blood? But the woman insisted. A vow has been made. You were young when they brought you here as a bride. You don't remember. But this child belongs to the spirits. Her womb was tied in exchange for your own survival. Mama Funmilayo shook her head now, years later. I thought it was just superstition, that the old woman was mad. She gripped the hospital rail tightly. But what if it was true? Inside the room, Adesewa stirred. She dreamt again. This time, the woman in white did not speak. She just stood. And behind her, another woman appeared, older, with gray hair and tribal marks. It was her great grandmother. She smiled gently and whispered, tell your mother to untie what was tied. The next morning, as sunlight touched the hospital window, Mama Funmilayo leaned close to her daughter and whispered, my child, there are things I need to confess. Adesewa turned slowly, eyes still tired. What kind of things, Mommy? Her mother swallowed. Things that started before you were born. Early the next morning, Adesewa and her mother sat in silence in the hospital room. The air was heavy, like something unseen was listening. Finally, Mama Fumilayo spoke. There's a place I need to take you. The same village where my grandmother once took me. Adesewa looked at her, confused. Why? To ask questions and maybe to beg for release. By afternoon, they were on the road to Ogunleke village, a quiet place, no signs, no street lights, just red soil and whispering trees. When they arrived, the villagers stared. They had not seen Mama Funmilayo in over 2 decades. An old woman sat by a broken shrine at the edge of the forest. Her eyes were white with age, but her voice was strong. I've been expecting you, she said before they could speak. Adezewa froze. The child who was tied in the womb. You're the one. Mama Funmilayo dropped to her knees. Mama, help us. The woman stood slowly. It is not me you must beg. You must go back to where the vow was first spoken. You must wake the earth and ask it to release what it swallowed. Adesewa looked at her mother. This was no longer medicine. This was not science. This was something older than both of them. She closed her eyes. I'm ready. They arrived at the sacred clearing before dawn. The sky was dark gray. The air smelled of charcoal and bitter leaves. The old woman, now wrapped in white cloth, stood in the center of the clearing with the calabash in one hand and cowries in the other. She motioned for Adesewa to kneel. Speak your name, the old woman said. Adesewa's voice shook. Adesewa, daughter of Funmilayo. The old woman threw the cowries on the ground. She watched how they landed, some face up, some face down. Then she nodded slowly. Yes, the earth remembers you. She placed the calabash before Adesewa. Inside it were strange items, red sand, charcoal, a folded leaf, and a strand of white hair. This is what sealed your womb. A vow was made when your mother was 3 months pregnant. A vow that said, take the mother, but not the child's blood. Mama Fumilayo gasped. I didn't know. The old woman nodded. But the spirits do not forget. She poured water into the calabash. It hissed like something alive. Now, she said, you must speak back to the vow. Tell it to return your womanhood. Adesewa took a deep breath. Her hands trembled. She stared at the mixture, then spoke. Whatever spirit was given my blood, I ask for it back. I break any tie, any promise, any vow made in silence. Let my womb be free. Let my womanhood be whole. Let the blood that never came come. The trees rustled, the wind turned warm, and from beneath her knees the earth trembled. Softly, but surely. The old woman looked at her. The ground has heard you. Go home. Watch what happens. As they walked away, Adesewa felt something inside her shift, like a door had creaked open, just a little, but enough for hope to sneak in. They returned to the city quietly. No celebration, no noise, just silence and a heavy kind of peace. Mama Funmilayo watched her daughter closely, as if waiting to hear something shift inside her body. But Adesewa said nothing, not that day, not the next. Then, on the third morning, she woke up and felt strange, a tightness in her lower belly, a dull ache she had never known before. She sat up slowly, touched her stomach. What is this? The pain wasn't sharp, but it was new, different, almost like her body was trying to speak after years of being quiet. She stood, walked to the mirror, and stared at herself. Same face, same eyes, but she knew something had shifted. Later that evening, as she lay on her bed reading, she felt a warmth trickle down her thigh. She paused, looked down, stood up slowly, walked to the bathroom, and there, on her underwear, a stain, deep red, real, alive. She froze. Her hands shook, her eyes filled with tears. Then she whispered, It's happening. Her mother heard her cry out and ran to the bathroom. She saw her daughter on the floor crying. This time, not from pain or shame, but from relief. Mommy, it came. The blood came. Mama Fumilayo dropped beside her, held her close, cried with her. Oluwa, ooh, God has done it. For the first time in her life, Adesewa bled, and with that blood came freedom. For the first time in her life, Adesewa felt normal, not because she looked different, but because she no longer carried the weight of a lie. Her body had spoken, the blood had come, the shame had left. She was no longer pretending, no longer afraid. 1 week later, she called Toby. Please, can we talk? He came the same evening, nervous but gentle as always. They sat in the small garden beside her house. The air was cool. The moon hung low, like a listening ear. Adesewa took a deep breath. There's something I've never told anyone before, not even my mother, not until recently. Toby sat up. His eyes never left hers. I'm listening. She told him everything, from age starting to the fake pads, to the empty pain, to the collapse, to the vow made before her birth. She did not cry. She just spoke. And Toby listened, without interrupting, without judgment. When she finished, she looked away. I understand if this is too much, if you can't look at me the same. Toby was quiet for a moment. Then he reached for her hand and said, You were already whole before the blood came, but I'm glad your heart can breathe now. She looked at him, shocked. You're not disgusted? He smiled. Number. I'm honored. You trusted me with your truth. That night, Adesewa slept in peace. For the first time, she didn't dream of blood, rivers, or women in white, just stars, just calm, just the soft sound of healing. It had been 3 months since the blood came. Adesewa had changed. Not on the outside. She still wore a simple gown, still drank warm pap on Sundays, still smiled gently when people greeted her. But inside, something had bloomed. She was no longer afraid, no longer ashamed, no longer hiding. One Sunday afternoon, while journaling by her window, she received a message. Hi, I saw your name on a women's health group. Can I ask you something personal? It was from a young lady named Temilade. She was 19 and had never menstruated either. She was scared, confused, silent. Adesewa stared at the message for a while. Then she replied, Yes, I understand. Let me tell you a story. That night she opened a new page on social media. She called it The Unseen Woman. She began to write about hidden pain, silent wounds, old spiritual vows, and the beauty of surviving shame. Women across villages, towns, and even cities began to reach out. This is my story too. I thought I was alone. Thank you for speaking. A story spread, not for fame, but for freedom, because in telling the truth, she had become what she never found in all her years of hiding, a safe place for others. At the end of the year, as Hamatan dust danced through the air, Toby proposed. She smiled, not because of the ring, but because she could finally say, Yes, with all of me. And that was how the lady who never menstruated became the woman who helped others bleed in peace. Not every African folktale ends in magic or marriage, but this one ended in truth, and that is enough.